Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy, and today I'm going to show you an alternative for Lovely as a Day paper pumpkin. So I'm going to show you this one and then one and another card that I'm kind of in the process of making. Now, this is a really pretty kit, and it coordinates, with Happy Birthday to You. This is a celebration item. So we will use a couple there. And I also want to mention that at the end, I will show you some other alternative cards that I came up with. So to get started, I'm not going to do this card. I'm going to do the other one I'm going to be working on. And the first thing I noticed is one of these envelopes looks so pretty, and I thought it came the closest to soft sea foam. Now, it's not exact, but it's very close. And that was actually technically not one of the colors that they listed. They always list the colors right here, and it's Petal Pink, Pool Party, Pretty Peacock, Rich Razzleberry, Rococo Rose, and Old Olive. So they didn't even list it, but to me that is a match. So I decided, well, I'm going to use that as one of my bases. And I love the Peaceful Poppies designer paper, and I decided I'm going to bring in this piece of paper, and I would back it with Poppy Parade. Now, this Baker's Twine was a celebration item. It has since, I think it's sold out. So you can see I just wrapped it around 3 times and tied it there. So that is going to go on the card, but I'm going to show a little bit of coloring. I'm going to bring something in to protect my surface and talk about that. Now, I did most of the coloring just to save time and not bore you. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to finish coloring it. So what I did here with the coloring, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, is I colored this part that would be the underside of the leaf, I guess. I'm not sure. So that it highlights, it makes it more interesting. This is Poppy Parade, and this is the dark. I always like to start off with the dark. So that's the simple coloring with that. Then here, I am just going to do the, color book coloring. Nothing special. I'm not really blending that much, although I'm blending a little bit here. But I'm not too concerned, to have it do a lot of blending. This is a very dark color. My most concerning part would actually be not to get out of the lines, which I did technically do a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. All right, so a lot of people don't know you can bring in other colors. You don't have to use just the light and dark. And I have the light pumpkin pie, and I actually found that this is a very mellow color. The dark is not, but this light is. And it's kind of a buttery color that's very similar to the Saffron. So if you use that and you want a higher contrast, you can actually this is the light Saffron, and you can see it just kind of blends it, but you notice it more than if you use just the light and the dark. So that's my little tip there. And I didn't do the center here, so I'll quickly do that. Again, I'm just adding a little bit of the pumpkin pie, and then I'm going to come in here and blend real quick with the lighter. And this will it's just a little darker. Okay, so the other tip I had was, I was thinking, I kind of like that, mimicking the dark versus light. Why wouldn't I do that with the leaves? So, of course, I brought in Mossy Meadow, and I did kind of randomly different spots there, different, chunks of the leaf. And then here is the light Old Olive. So all I'm doing here is just filling in where I didn't have the Mossy Meadow, which is the light Mossy Meadow, by the way. So just to encourage you, you can get more looks with your blends if you combine similar but different colors. So there it is now complete. And I also went ahead and colored this little sprig, and that one I did with the same technique as with, you know, the light pumpkin pie and then the saffron. So we're gonna bring back in our base. I'm gonna move this aside, and I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so that you can take in the whole thing. And I'm gonna keep this card, you know, pretty simple. One of the things I do wanna do is add a sentiment. So I have a scrap here, and when you're cutting for inside cardstock, you will often end up with a scrap like this. So it's a convenient size. I'll just bring in my little handy thing. It is a 1/2 inch approximately. All right, so here we have that, and I thought, wouldn't it be kind of fun? I'm looking at this, if I did this at an angle, and then I could decorate it. Sometimes I like doing that sort of thing. It just adds a little bit of interest, and everything doesn't have to be quite so even. But if you do this sort of thing, make sure you make it really pretty obviously uneven. Like the worst is if it just looks a little like you were sloppy, then it's bad. Okay, so I'm gonna do this little trick. I'm gonna let my scissors be guided by my card base. Okay, so, and then I'm gonna turn it this way, and you do it the reverse if you're, you know, left-handed. And then just cut that off. And then I have it tailored made to it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and adhere this. I think it adds a little extra interest and does that something that we're all looking for in our cards. We wanna set them apart. We wanna make them a little different, and that's probably why you're looking for ideas for your alternatives for this month's kit, is because you want something a little different. So this is one way to accomplish that. Okay, I'm just centering this up, making sure it's straight. I have a little bit of a border. This is 3 inches this way, 4 inches this way, and then 1/8 of an inch extra here. So that would be 4 1/8, and then this would be 3 1/8. So it's a very fine little border. Okay, so far so good. All right, so all we need to do is add a few dimensionals real quick. I'll try to do this lickety split. Taking off the dimensionals as I go does help with that. Now, I'm just going to be tucking this little guy underneath. So I'm gonna put this down lightly in case I need to adjust. And I'm gonna see where I think it looks good. I kind of like it like that because it's kind of coming up into here. So I am just going to add a little bit of liquid glue, and I will need this take a pick tool, because in that kit with the baker's twine, they have this beautiful sequence, and the sequence is Calypso coral. Well, I'll just bring it in. What is Bermuda Bay and Saffron. And what I want to do is probably just use the Saffron ones, and I'm just going to add a few randomly. Now, because Tombow liquid glue tends to dry a little bit less than clear, it's shiny, I'm going to be using my art glitter glue, and I've got one on this sentiment, and then I think I want one somewhere on this part, so I'll just put it down here. So we got 3 little dots, and this is the take pick tool. So I'm going to get a small one first, and I think I want the small one up here. Ooh. Yeah, sometimes these little sequins want to pop right back up. And we got to say, whoa there. You stay right down. But I like to make sure they're flat, so I sometimes push manually as well. Probably the take a pick is plenty though. But you know, sometimes we don't trust things, right? All right, so I think that adds just a nice little something. And then we can stamp in the inside of the card. Now, of course, You're a Great Reason To needs Celebrate, I think. But it could be anything you decide. Just as long as it makes sense, right? Okay, so I'm going to bring in Mossy Meadow now. Because remember, Mossy Meadow was one of the colors. I'm just going to try to make sure I'm in camera here. Was one of the colors we used. And I hope I don't loosen that. And then I will just stamp this. And if I screw up, no I didn't. I was going to say if I do, I could always come and just correct it by covering it up with some white cardstock. Okay, so final touch is I'm going to stamp this little stamp that came with the set with the lovely day. And I'm going to just stamp it, I think, down in this corner. So it just adds a little bit, you know, something else. Okay, so I'm pleased with how this card came out. I think it's really pretty. And now we're going to come back and focus on this card and work on that. So to get started, I am going to protect my work surface. And there's a lovely script folder, embossing folder that Stampin' Up! Sells in the annual catalog, which is what I used. But in order to make it highlighted, because it's kind of lost, I don't know if you can see that real well, but I think it's kind of lost, the writing. So it's a very easy solution. You just bring in your, the same color, which is Saffron, and you can just see how that then comes right alive. It's like magic, just gorgeous. So that is all it took, just like a few seconds practically. Not quite, but you know what I'm saying. Very little time, and you immediately have an impact. So the base that I used was this. And with the paper pumpkin, sometimes I'm a little disappointed, I'll be honest, with the quality. So what you can do, if you're feeling like this kind of feels a little lightweight or cheap or whatever, you can take a plain Whisper white cardstock and add it in the center. Now that kind of looks goofy to me. It's like, okay, what's the point of that? So what I am going to do is I'm going to sponge it. And this adds a nice little touch, I think, to this inside. And then we'll work on the outside. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it's okay to sometimes do things a little out of order. So I'm just sponging the edge, and it'll give it a kind of a shabby chic look, which I think flower cards really lend themselves to that, you know, the nature woodsy type look. Okay, so that is my idea for how to dress it up. Now the final thing is to stamp inside here. So what I will do, I think, oh, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and just stamp it with the, I'm going to see what I'm going to stamp it 2 times. So I'm going to stamp 1, and then I'm going to just, it's a stamping off like that. So 2 times, but no effort whatsoever. No even re-inking. And it looks quite cool that way. So you can stamp that twice and add it then to the center here. Okay, just add it real quick and we'll get going on the front. Okay, so that's that. And now we have our base. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this strip here. So I'm going to get my glue, adhere this, and we can then go from there. So right here. Now, some of you may not be aware that in the annual catalog, they have a beautiful selection of Vellum, the Perennial Essence Vellum, which is in Petal Pink, Old Olive, and so Saffron. Now, I went ahead and die cut some out in the Petal Pink. So here is mine in Petal Pink. And I think the vellum really makes a soft look. With the whole flower, here we have the flower. I'm trying to locate. I'm a little disorganized here. I went ahead and I did some embossing. So if I can locate that, that would be cool right about now. Okay, I think I found it, yes. All right, so I embossed it with the copper embossing powder, and I colored it much the same way I colored the other. So I'm not going to show the coloring. As you can see, I've already colored this, and we're just going to go ahead and adhere it. Now, what I want is it popped up, so I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. And with my first one, I didn't add this, but I'm thinking this one I want to add it, and I'm going to turn this into a sympathy card, because I can always use a couple sympathy cards, and I want my paper pumpkin kits to really kind of, you know, give me what I need, not so much necessarily what the kit is designed for, which is birthdays, and that I do definitely always need those, but sometimes I need other types of cards. So just look at what stamps you have already and use some of those. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and add it here. But when I glue this, I'm going to make sure that I do not go anywhere where I don't see the flower behind it, because vellum and glue do not look very good. If you need to adhere it further, just use some glue dots. So I'm just going to add this like so. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to kind of think a little bit more like that. Yeah, I'm going to just add that one here. So this one I'm not popping up because I want it to tuck in. Boy, this is getting all gummed up. I was doing scrapbooking last night and I was using my glue a lot. So I got to clean that up a little, the end tip. Okay, so we're just going to add it like that. And that will help kind of hold some of the vellum down, which now this is kind of popping up a little more than I care for. So, glue dots to the rescue. Just going to quickly add a few, and you really don't see them as nearly as much as actual glue. So, I prefer that if I feel like it needs a little, it's popping up. All right, so finally, well written. This is a beautiful die set. And it has all these wonderful sentiments, and you can see I die cut it out and put them all on the back here. And that is what we're going to go ahead and use. I love the copper. I love that Stampin' Up! Included all these amazing popped up letters and words, lovely, wishes, celebrate, stuff like that. So these are great, a great idea with the copper. However, they're a little bit thick, and I wanted to say something different. So I have this backed with adhesive backing. So this is going to be super quick. All right, and again, I want this to be a sympathy card. So I'm not going to put the to you part. Sympathy to you. I guess it could work, but I kind of feel like with sympathy cards, less is more. I like to keep them pretty simple. And so fortunately, I see a little things here. Now, another thing is if you have two heights, it's actually sometimes a good idea to go ahead and add a little bit of liquid glue just in a few spots, just to make sure it doesn't come loose, because sometimes with the height difference you're going to encounter a few problems. So I'm doing that more as a precaution, not necessarily you have to. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add this right here. I think that looks pretty good. So that's my sympathy card. And as you can see in here, you have a nice little flower. I think it makes a great sympathy card. Okay, so thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com. I do help you place the Stampin' Up! Order if you wish to do so. If you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I could definitely use more subscribers. And don't forget to tap the bell for notifications. So that said, I'm going to bring in my other cards that I did. Here is a happy birthday. And what I did here is I chopped up one of these, and I got two from here, and I got this piece, and I was able to cut two pieces out of this. So you can definitely repurpose some bases if you feel like, oh, I don't quite want that. All right, so here's where I used that one piece. So here's the mate. And I use Flirty Flamingo for the flower here. Now it is different than the Rococo Rose. This is the Rococo Rose. And here, instead of Pool Party, I use Mint Macaron. And I did that same technique with the leaves, doing some with the Mint Macaron and some with the soft sea foam. So you can see, this is where I tried to blend it more. And blending when you have already embossed is a little bit more difficult, so I kind of like this idea better. All right, so, and then finally this card, which I think is really stunning. Isn't that pretty? That's with the Pool Party, and then I wrapped it with some retired baker's twine, Pool Party baker's twine. So, and then this is a Parisian, the embossing folder. I'm not sure the exact name, and I went ahead and stamped that little cake. So this stamp set has a lot of sentiments, but the main images are like this flower and the cake. But you also, here, this little dotted thing was from the happy birthday to you. All right, so I'll bring them all back in, and then I will close this out. But thank you again for watching, and I hope it inspired you a little bit to try doing a little alternate ideas. I used a lot of vellum here. I just kind of was in the mood for vellum, I guess. But here we go. The two cards that we did today, I'll bring those finally. Okay, sorry here. I'll end with that. All right. Happy stamping.